But it was hopeless. Lee saw from his seat on Traveler's broad back. The general urged the big gray toward the men who were fleeing in panic. He was engaged in rallying and encouraging the broken troops, and was riding about a little in front of the wood, quite alone, an observer said. Lee called to the bloody, walking wounded, urging them to take up a musket and fight again. The British observer said, I saw many badly wounded men take off their hats and cheer him. They picked up weapons and went back to fight again, and some to die. Lee rode up to the visiting military officer. This has been a sad day, Colonel, Lee said. A sad day. The general suggested shelter for the visitor because the shells were bursting all around. When another general emotionally tried to tell Lee what had happened, Lee replied, Never mind, General. All this has been my fault. It is that I have lost this fight, and you must me help out of it the best way you can. In the aftermath of battle, Lee came upon a wounded Union soldier on the ground. The blue coat looked up at Lee on his big gray horse and cried, Hooray for the Union. Lee dismounted and walked slowly toward the fallen man. The soldier thought Lee was personally going to kill him. The general stuck out his right hand. My son, he said gently, I hope you will soon be well. Lee was taking the blame for the losses of July 3rd, but the South had won the day before. Colonel C.S. Venable of Lee's staff said he had heard Lee order Longstreet to send in extra support divisions, which was not done. I know, Lee answered. I know. In the 6 weeks since Jackson had died, Lee had found that he indeed lost his right hand. Other generals did not obey or delayed action as the form of disobedience, and Lee, never schooled in dealing harshly with men of high station, showed again this weakness. It was after midnight when Lee finally returned to his tent. The big gray horse was tired, and Lee was unwell and exhausted. The general had to be helped out of the saddle. A cavalryman watched Lee as he leaned heavily against the horse's solid flank. The moon shone on the general's face. It had an expression of sadness that I had never before seen upon his face. Lee surveyed the price of Gettysburg. He sent a message with the results to Richmond by a cavalry general. Actually, the Union had lost 3,000 more men than the Confederacy, but the North could stand the loss, the South could not. Lee ordered a retreat from Pennsylvania. The turning point of the war had been reached. On July 4th, 1863, Lee headed for Richmond in heavy rain, but more bad news awaited him there. On the same day, Lee learned Grant pounded Vicksburg, Mississippi, into submission. The determined Grant had chopped the Western Confederates from their partners. The Union now controlled the Mississippi River. Grant, as Lincoln's only winning general, would be free for other assignments. In Richmond, President Davis was understanding of Lee's Pennsylvania failure, but as usual, the press was not. The criticism grew so severe over the next several weeks that Lee offered his resignation. Davis was wiser than the press. Our country could not afford to lose you, he assured Lee. Where am I to find the new commander who is to possess the greater ability which you believe to be required? The president asked. He returned Lee to duty, his rank unchanged. Lee got personal bad news before 1863 was over. His son, Rooney, had been captured by Federal cavalry units as he was recuperating from a wound. Rooney's wife, Charlotte, who had earlier lost a son, Lee's grandson, was greatly shaken by the experience. On Christmas Day, Lee got more sad news. Charlotte, his only daughter-in-law, had died. Lee sat in his tent on that Christmas of 1863 and remembered the good things of the past, including his favorite lemon cake and his children laughing about the table. Hopefully, 1864 would be more pleasant, but there were serious problems which Lee knew no mortal alone could overcome. End of chapter 9.